airplane hit the tower.
Well, at the time, I didn't know what all that meant.
CD was obviously on.
16 years after the tragic events of 9/11.
There are known knowns.
I said, well, there's one terrible pilot.
Billions of people remain misinformed and misled.
But there are also unknown unknowns.
The president knew.
Failure of imagination.
Dry anthrax.
It's time to revive a real and legitimate 9/11 truth movement.
A lot of evidence.
A radical network of terror.
Iraq's weapons of mass destruction.
We did capture bin Laden.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
In 2017, Newsbud presented a one-of-a-kind 9/11 activist summit, now available for the first time on video. FBI whistleblower on 9/11, who became the most classified person in U.S. history.
Sibel is an Iranian-born former FBI translator who's been fighting for years to tell her story.
The founder of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition.
Everything involving my case and my allegations were considered state secrets.
A Newman's Own First Amendment Award recipient who refused to be silenced on 9/11.
So we have certain diplomatic relations that prevents criminals being, prosecuted here.
The founder and editor of Newsbud, Sibel Edmonds.
If you want to go all the way to the top of the pyramid, up in the hierarchy of culprits, millions of lives have been destroyed either by death, destructions, the numbers of orphans, hundreds of thousands of orphans that have been created, made orphans under this excuse of 9/11. We are going and attacking these nations because they are the terrorists who did this to us. While you are looking at a totally different picture. They went to Afghanistan, okay? And there was an initial raid inside these caves. Empty, nothing, no discovery. And then 2 days later, they were called back after the CIA had gone in there, and this was CIA operating together. They had to quickly come up with another monstrous enemy, one that would never disappear or fall like the communist Soviet Union, one that would go on forever, and with it, perpetual wars and insane expenditure on the MIC again.
The only U.S. Congresswoman who had the guts to question the official narrative, making a stand for 9/11 truth.
I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th.
Later introducing articles of impeachment for President Bush, Vice President Cheney, and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice.
There is a very real disconnect between our values and the values of the special interest.
A 6-term Congresswoman, Cynthia McKinney.
I was the first member of Congress to actually demand an investigation, and as a result of that, I was ridiculed and targeted for defeat. This isn't exactly a great example to set for members of Congress who want to remain members of Congress. Thus, you get the cover-ups, the glaring lies. We've got to eliminate this impunity that exists at these highest levels of committing the most heinous crimes.
A Navy veteran who has worked with the State Department and the National Security Agency, specializing in intelligence and international affairs.
The federal contract research centers have generated paper after paper on what they see as the future for the United States.
Investigative journalist, author, and publisher of Madsen Report, Wayne Madsen.
Now, having been in the Navy and worked at the National Security Agency, having dealt with things like emergency action planning, continuity of government, what happened the morning of 9/11 was a cascading series of failures in a multi-trillion-dollar intelligence system. Now, that could have only taken place as the result of, I don't believe that the release of the 28 pages goes far enough. I think the media is happy to point out the Saudi role, but there are constraints in that. So what would the CIA station chief be going to visit Osama bin Laden for? Now, keep in mind, he had already been indicted for the 1998 bombing. So what did Larry Mitchell bring him? Some flowers, a box of chocolate?
An award-winning investigative journalist and internationally acclaimed best-selling author, his work has been published in 64 countries and translated into 41 languages.
The political juggernaut actually manipulates your emotions, and how all of these things are being put in the consensus.
The man who exposed the Bilderberg Group, Daniel Estrelman.
No matter how you try to untangle this whole thing, whether it's the 28 pages, whether it's the 9/11 attack itself, it all goes back to the same thing, the behind-the-scenes conglomerates and the elite circles of the, heyday of the empire, who actually ran the show for such a long time. The first Interpol arrest warrant for bin Laden was actually issued by Libya in March 1998. The British and the American intelligence agencies, they buried this inconvenient fact that the arrest warrants had actually come from Libya and played down the threat. Bin Laden's father, Mohammed bin Laden, played a very important role in this whole bin Laden.
Newsbud's first special guest is a scholar and one of America's best-known critics of the War on Terror. He is an author and has taught at several universities. Professor Kevin Barrett.
Not one aspect of the official version of 9/11 stands up to critical inquiry. I don't know. I think the dinosaur institutions, the governments, the mega corporations, and ultimately the currency-creating international banksters, who are really the heart of the power system, I think they're on really shaky ground, and they're worried about what we're doing. They're worried about this event. They're worried about Newsbud.
Newsbud's second special guest has over 30 years of financial, market, and related public policy experience, including 13 years at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Bill Bergman.
And I was invited to work at that time in the money laundering area at the Fed. I was told I was part of the fight on terrorism. And as I worked on this primer, I was reviewing the record around August and September 2001, looking for clues. And two things got my attention. And I'm talking about roughly billions of dollars of $100 bills above normal in August 2001. It deals with the use of currency in covert and other overt military operations.
While some within the truth community have given up on 9/11 truth and disseminate pessimism.
But the idea that the 9/11 truth movement as 9/11 truth is going to be the way that people understand and break through the barriers is, I think, has passed. That political moment has passed a decade ago.
There are those of us who have vowed to continue the pursuit for 9/11 truth.
We don't have any choice but to pursue the truth about September 11th. We don't have any choice.
And I think together we're going to have a much better chance of figuring it out, as long as we are dedicated and we say we are not going to give up. It's not like I'm going to be only doing this or Newsbud, but we are going to do it for as long as I live and as long as there is Newsbud.
We don't have any guarantee how it's all going to work out, and all sorts of bad things could still happen. But I think that the truth movement has really succeeded more than it's failed, because we have thrown a huge monkey wrench in this system of social control.
Be a little grain of sand to stop the gears, or as Mario Savio said, the gears and the levers and the wheels of the machine. We've got to be the little grain of sand to stop it. And I agree with you, Sibel. I'm in. I mean, I don't know anything else to do. I'll be doing it. I'll be resisting for the rest of my life.
Do not miss this one-of-a-kind, nearly 3 hours long 9/11 Activist Summit, Titans of Truth, now available at Newsbud Vimeo On Demand.
I would also like to just say a word about Sibel's use of this term, pseudo-alternative media. That's very important, because unfortunately there are a lot of people who have grown to rely on certain quote-unquote alternative media, but they extend a line that is consistent with the official narrative, which we know is a lie. And that's not just on 9/11, that's on all of the subsequent wars as well. And so when we are trying to expose the truth, part of that line that we have to pierce through is this pseudo-alternative media that people have relied on for years and still considered to be truth tellers, and they're not. So I think Newsbud serves a very useful purpose because Sibel has earned her stripes, as we say. And people trust all of you at Newsbud because you've been through the trials and the tribulations of what comes along with truth-telling, and you've been able to resist whatever it is that the pseudo-alternative media have not been able to resist.